Jai Bharat. Welcome everyone to Advaitachievers. Pranam to all of you. As I believe, Vidyathi Devo Bhava. Children, in our previous video, we have been discussing two methods of contraception, which were the natural methods as well as the barrier methods. So in the same topic, that is methods of contraception, we are further going to talk about a few more methods. So let's see that. So the next method that we are going to talk about is the chemical method. So in chemical method, what happens is they are contraceptives which contains spermicidal chemicals, right? So let's see that. These chemicals which are there, right, they are available in the form of creams, jelly, foam, tablets, etc. Right? So commonly they contain lactic acid, boric acid, citric acid, zinc sulfate and potassium permanganate, right? So the chemical contraceptives are introduced in the vagina prior to sex, right? So that these chemicals, they are going to act as spermicidals, they are going to kill the sperms, right? So these were the chemical methods. The next method that we will be talking about are the intrauterine devices, that is the IUDs, or we say intrauterine contraceptive devices, that is IUCDs, right? So these devices the person cannot introduce on its own or insert in the body on her own, right? So there has to be a doctor or a nurse whose help is required, right? So these devices are inserted by doctors or expert nurses in the uterus through the vagina. What will IUDs do inside there, right? So IUDs are going to affect the motility of the sperms within the uterus. That is, they are going to block the passage in a way where they will be not allowed to reach to the fallopian tube, right? So they are going to affect the motility of the sperms which have reached to the uterus, because this device is to be inserted in the uterus, right? So IUDs are ideal contraceptives for the females who want to delay pregnancy, right? Or the one who wants to space children, that is एक बच्चा होने के बाद दूसरे बच्चे के बीच में अगर गैप होना चाहिए, and it is ideally said that there should be a minimum gap of 3 years between two children, so that by that time, as I said, that post delivery the mother's body has become too weak. So if she also needs to gain strength, right, her uterus also should become that much prepared, so that it is able to develop that fetus inside, and so that if that is all, the mother's body is completely fit, then it will be able to provide sufficient nutrition and everything to the developing fetus inside, right? So if the space is required, spacing is required, then too IUDs are ideal contraceptives, right? It is one of the most widely accepted methods of contraception in India, right? Because mostly, as we have discussed earlier, that this device is to be introduced in the female body, right? So it is more widely accepted method of contraception in India, right? So let us see some commonly used IUDs, right? We can classify them as non-medicated ones, and say a non-medicated IUD, the example is Lippis loop. Just within a moment, I'll be showing you the diagrams, or you can say the pictures of each and every type. Then there are copper releasing IUDs. These copper releasing IUDs, which is this CUT, CU7, multilode 375. So what they do is they release these copper ions. And what copper ions are going to do? Copper ions, they suppress, okay, the motility of the sperm, and hence fertilization also is prevented. So they suppress the motility and the fertilization capacity of the sperms, right? The next category is the hormone releasing IUDs. Example is Progestasert LNG20, that is levonorgestrel. These IUDs in addition right? What they do, of course, in addition, they make the uterus unsuitable, you can say, for the implantation. It will bring the changes in the uterus. Of course, they are going to affect the sperm motility and all, it is there, but simultaneously they make the uterus also unsuitable and the cervix hostile to the sperms, right? So these are the types of IUDs as we have talked about. See, the first one is Lippis loop, which is non-medicated one. Then as we said, CUT, CU7, copper T, copper 7. So this is here copper 7. This one is copper 7. Copper T's are here. Then this multi-load 375. This lower one is multi-load 375. And this LNG 20, which is levonorgestrel. This is the other one, right? So they are going to make the uterus also unsuitable for the implantation, correct? So with this, this type of or this method of contraception is done. We move to the next one. So the next method is the contraceptive which are oral. Oral माने वो pills. आप मुंह के जरिए उस चीज को ले रहे हो. So we call it oral contraceptives. Now what are oral contraceptives? They are basically the preparations which will contain either only progesterone or it will be a combination of estrogen progesterone, right? So either it will have only progesterone or it will be a combination of both. The pills are taken orally for 21 days in a menstrual cycle starting from 5th day of the cycle. So from the 5th day, once, as we have learnt, that the bleeding continues for 1 to 4 or 5 days and then the other phases begin. So from 5th day itself, that tablet is to be taken and it will continue till, say, there will be 21 tablets which needs to be taken. And then there comes a gap. As in that gap, the lady will menstruate. Understood? In that gap which will be there, उस gap के अंदर उसका वो menstrual flow जो होगा lady का वो शुरू हो जाएगा. So again that menstrual flow has started. Again there will be those next 4 days to be the pill not to be taken and which has to be started again from the 5th day. Right? So that is how the pills are to be taken. How does these hormonal pills act? Right? So they inhibit ovulation. One thing. Then they alter the uterine endometrium to make it unsuitable for implantation, right? Then the pills, they change the quality of the cervical mucus, right? Impairing its ability to allow passage and transport of sperm. See, if the cervical mucus itself becomes too thick, it is going to block the passage of the sperm. वो थिन होगा तो स्पर्म जो है वो वहां से स्विम करके क्रॉस करके निकल जाएगा. बट इफ दैट सर्वाइकल म्यूकस इटसेल्फ इज गोना बी सो मच thick where the sperm won't be able to make its own way, right? And also they inhibit the motility and secretory activity of the fallopian tube. Means motility in the sense there also it is going to take up the egg and all that process is going to happen. So it's going to affect all that process in the fallopian tube, right? So oral pills, they are of two types, either combined and the other one is called mini pills, right? Combined pills, we are calling it combined because they contain the combination of both estrogen and progesterone, right? And they're synthetic products, okay? They are synthetic products and what they do, they inhibit ovulation and implantation, right? Also, it protects the endometrial lining from the adverse effect of estrogen. See, more and more estrogen being released, more and more that bleeding process would continue and all that, and so the endometrial lining would get affected, right? So, it protects the endometrial lining from the adverse effect of estrogen, right? So, some common combination pills are Mala D and Mala L, right? Now, let us talk about mini pills. Mini pills are progesterone only. Combined pills में दोनों है. मिनी पिल्स में सिर्फ प्रोजेस्टेरॉन, राइट, एंड दे आर टू बी टेकन डेली विदाउट ब्रेक. जबकि वो कॉम्बिनेशन पिल होता है उसमें we take a like as I said for 21 days it needs to be taken and then there has to be a halt, whereas here these are to be taken daily, right. Saheli, already we discussed about this earlier also, is the first non-steroidal contraceptive pill. See, these hormones are steroidal in nature, correct, but Saheli is the first non-steroidal contraceptive pill. See, whenever you are taking these pills, because they are steroidal, the hormones are steroidal, no, they will create some or the other effect in the body. But Saheli is the first, that is its side effect. You understood? But Saheli is the first non-steroidal contraceptive pill. And what it does, instead of estrogen, it doesn't have the hormone estrogen, it has a drug that blocks estrogen, right. Hence it is, we are saying it is non-steroidal, and it is to be taken once in a week, right. Saheli was developed by Central Drug and Research Institute, CDRI, which is located in Lucknow, right. So this is the oral contraceptive pills. The next method of contraception that we are going to talk about are known as implants. See, name itself tells you implant माने कुछ अपने body के अंदर डालना है. That is an implant, है ना? Right? So they are hormone containing devices, okay, which are implanted under the skin. And for they will be providing, because they are implanted in the body under the skin, they can provide long term contraception. जो हम IUDs भी यूज करते हैं ना, वो कॉपर टी और वो 5 साल के लिए होती है, 7 साल के लिए होती है, ऐसे आती है, और उसके उस ड्यूरेशन के बाद वो निकलवा देना पड़ता है. You have to get another one inserted in the body, right. And these implants, they work even longer, right. So they provide long term contraception. Norplant is an implant with 6 small permeable capsules, okay, which are inserted under the skin in a fan like manner, okay. So these are implants. The next method that is called emergency contraception. अब ये emergency contraception क्यों? Because कि अगर किसी say for a lady there has been an unsafe sex, that is neither the male partner has used any contraception nor the female partner, and if there are she is at a high risk of getting pregnant and she doesn't want the pregnancy, then something has to be done quite in an urgency. So we are calling it emergency contraception. Secondly, say in cases of rape and all, right, the female who has been raped, that time no one is aware of what is happening around. People are, she herself is in a lot of trauma, correct. So immediately this emergency contraception if given, then she won't be getting pregnant. That is another help which is given. So it is a treatment for an unprotected sex, sexual assault, missed pills and other reasons which have high risk of pregnancy, right. So these drugs are also called morning after pills, okay. Morning after pills क्योंकि ये unprotected sex के बाद आप ले रहे हो, so it is after pills, okay. They are also available in India under Family Welfare Program since 2002-2003, right. Now what things come under emergency contraception? Insertion of IUD within 5 days of unprotected sex prevents implantation. We have learnt in the process of reproduction that on which day implantation takes place. Usually we said 7th day is most common, as we said, after fertilization, right. So if by 5th day, within 5 days of this unprotected sex, if someone introduces that IUD, then it is going to render the uterus unsuitable for implantation. So that is one thing. Secondly, administration of progesterone or progesterone estrogen combination or IUDs within 72 hours of coitus. Coitus is that sexual intercourse, can be used as an emergency contraceptive. Earlier in TV there was an ad coming of eye pills. Eye pills are such one type of, you can say, emergency such type of pills only, because वो उस ad में दिखाया जाता था कि उसको 72 hours के अंदर अगर ले लिया जाए, right, then there are no chances that the lady will get pregnant or she may conceive, right? This is clear. So these are emergency contraception. The next and the last method, I think, of the contraception we are going to discuss, that is the surgical method. Okay, surgical methods जिसको हम general terms में बोलते हैं ना, नसबंदी जो बोला जाता है, it is that surgical method, and they are called terminal methods of family planning program. क्यों terminal? वो last में सोचना है, क्यों? Because they are permanent. एक बार ये सर्जरी करा ली फिर वो रिवर्स नहीं हो सकती, right? So normally when will a doctor allow such a surgical method? When a couple has a child, एक या दो बच्चे होते हैं और उसके बाद if they don't want further kids, okay, then the doctor suggests to undergo these surgical methods. Till then they are not allowed. Why? Because they are permanent, they can't be reversed. All right, okay. So the methods are operative, मतलब एक छोटा सा ऑपरेशन जैसा होता है, ऑपरेटिव प्रोसीजर होती है, right, which will block the passage of semen in males and ova in females, right? The techniques are also called sterilization procedures, क्योंकि उसके बाद you cannot conceive, right? Because even the males, उनके अंदर भी वो sperm का passage ही block हो रहा है, right? How? That is what we are going to see next. So they are called vasectomy in males and tubectomy in females. So let us see one after the other what is vasectomy and what is tubectomy. So in vasectomy, what happens? It is a surgical procedure of male sterilization, right? Where each vas deferens is cut and the two ends are separated and tied. तो एक बार वो कट लगा दिया फिर वो जुड़ने नहीं है, इसीलिए इट इज अ परमानेंट मेथड. ऑलराइट, अ गैप ऑफ 1 to 4 centimeters is a must between the two ends, otherwise reunion can occur. So this is vasectomy, which is carried out in case of males. Tubectomy is done in females and it is a surgical procedure of female sterilization where a portion of both the fallopian tubes is excised. Excised माने cut किया, right? And ligated माने फिर उसको फिर उसके ends जो है उसको अलग तरीके से जोड़ देंगे. To block the passage of ovum, right, through them. मतलब ovulation तो होगा, fallopian tube उसको collect भी करेगा egg को, पर वो वहाँ से आगे नहीं जा पाएगा क्योंकि वहाँ कट लगा दिया गया है. करेक्ट? सो दैट इज ट्यूबेक्टोमी, राइट? ट्यूबेक्टोमी is performed by conventional transabdominal surgery and conventional laparotomy and mini laparotomy, right? So this is how the tubectomy is carried out. So with this, children, we have finished discussing all the methods of contraception. In the next video, we will be talking about amniocentesis and medical termination of pregnancy, MTP. I hope all of you have followed it. And children, if you like our videos, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel Advait Achievers, and you may also download our app. Thank you. Jai Bharat.